At 14 years old, most boys are worried about school, friends, or what tomorrow might bring. But in a small community in northeastern Nigeria, one boy faced a choice that would change his life forever. A choice that would cost him his friends, that would bring beatings, rejection, and even threats to his life, and a choice that would one day lead him to the altar of God. This is the extraordinary story of Father Idris Moses, a boy born into Islam who risked everything to become a Catholic priest. Father Idris Moses was born into a devout Muslim family in Mararaba, Taraba State, Nigeria. In the community where he grew up, Islam was not simply a religion, it was a way of life. No one could have imagined that the young boy would one day become a Catholic priest. Yet God often writes his greatest stories in the most unexpected places. And for Idris, that story began in an unlikely way. Not in a church service, not through a missionary, but while selling bread. It was December 2004. Idris was only 14 years old. Like many young boys trying to help their families, he hawked bread. One Sunday, he took his bread to a Catholic church where children were gathered for Sunday school. The sales were surprisingly good. The church became a profitable place to sell bread, and so he kept returning. At first, he came for business, but gradually, something else drew him in. He listened, he observed, he became curious. The words he heard inside the church began to touch his heart. And without realizing it, the bread seller was becoming a seeker. And the church that had begun as a marketplace was becoming a doorway to faith. The Catholic Church was located far from his family home, and that distance became a blessing. It allowed Idris to attend quietly without immediately attracting attention. As he learned more about Christianity, he made a decision that would change everything. He chose to become a Christian. Soon he entered the catechumenate, preparing for baptism. For a while his family remained unaware. But secrets rarely remain hidden forever. Eventually, they discovered the truth. Their son was becoming a Christian. and they were furious. What followed was a painful chapter in Idris's life. Every time he went to church, he was beaten by his older brothers. Friends abandoned him. People he had known all his life turned away. At one point, even his own mother starved him in an effort to force him back to Islam. The pressure intensified. One day, he was locked inside a room to prevent him from attending a Catholic charismatic gathering. But Idris was determined. He escaped through a window and ran to the parish house. The persecution continued, yet so did his faith. The young boy refused to turn back. Then came one of the darkest moments of his journey. One rainy night, his father made a heartbreaking decision. He ordered Idris to leave the house. Imagine that moment. A teenager, rejected by his family, uncertain of what tomorrow would bring. Yet even in that darkness, God had not abandoned him. His baptismal sponsor, Anthony Ishaya, welcomed him. But helping Idris came at a cost. Even his sponsor faced threats because of his support for the young convert. The situation became so serious that a Catholic priest stepped in. Father Kirian Damfulani recognized that Idris needed protection and a future. And so a new chapter began. Father Damfulani arranged for Idris to leave his hometown and enroll at Sacred Heart Minor Seminary in Jalingo. For the first time, the young convert found an environment where his faith could grow. Years of study followed, years of prayer, years of formation. In 2012, he graduated from the minor seminary, but God was calling him even further. Idris applied to become a priest for the Catholic Diocese of Jalingo. The journey was far from easy. He studied at Bishop Timothy Cotter Memorial Seminary and later at St. Augustine's Major Seminary in Jos, Plateau State, Nigeria. Yet, even in seminary, the struggles continued. There were moments when he wanted to quit, moments when the burden seemed too heavy, moments when he packed his belongings and considered leaving. But each time, God placed people in his path. Friends, formators, spiritual directors, mentors who encouraged him to stay. Mentors who reminded him why he had begun the journey. And slowly, step by step, he moved closer to the priesthood. Formation for the priesthood is never easy. and for Idris, it included both spiritual and physical hardships. During apostolic assignments, he sometimes slept in poor conditions. He faced rejection in remote communities. He battled illness, including malaria. There were sacrifices few people ever saw. But the boy who had endured beatings for his faith had already learned an important lesson. Faithfulness often requires sacrifice, and sacrifice often prepares a person for their mission. Then came the day he had dreamed about for years. February 25th, 2022. Inside Our Lady Queen of Peace Cathedral in Jalingo, Bishop Charles Michael Hamawa ordained Idris Moses to the priesthood. The boy who had once been chased from home now stood before God's altar. The teenager who had escaped through a window to attend church now celebrated the holy sacrifice of the Mass. The young convert who had been rejected for his faith was now a priest of Jesus Christ. But perhaps the most moving part of that day was not the ordination itself. It was who was present. His parents attended. After years of struggle, years of pain, and years of sacrifice, they came to witness the moment. For Idris, it was proof that the journey had not been in vain. Today, Father Idris serves the church with joy. He celebrates the Eucharist, administers the sacraments, counsels the faithful. And he continues to share a message born from his own experience. Religious freedom matters. Faith should never be forced, and those who discover Christ must be willing to stand firm regardless of the cost. His advice to those afraid of persecution is simple. Know what you believe, stand firm, and be ready to sacrifice everything if necessary. Because Christ sacrificed everything for us. The story of Father Idris Moses is not merely the story of a conversion. It is the story of courage, of perseverance, and of a young man who chose conviction over comfort. Family rejection could not stop him. Threats could not stop him. Hardship could not stop him. Because when God calls a soul, no obstacle is greater than His grace. From a bread seller in Taraba State to a priest at the altar of Christ, Father Idris's journey reminds us that sometimes the greatest victories begin with the hardest sacrifices, and that faith, when truly embraced, can change a life forever. Whose heart she is, whose soul